Well, wonderful to get a few minutes with Karthik, who is a robotics software engineer at IAM Robotics. Karthik, let's start with a quick introduction. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. And so I am a mechanical engineering master's student. I just graduated with my master's in mechanical. My undergrad was again a lot of focused on automotive engineering. I did SAE Baja, which are like motorsports events. I was a lot into motorsports as well, and then I came in here with a master's in mechanical as well in Virginia Tech. It was the 2018 batch. I came in and I switched to robotics in 2019, which I'll talk about eventually. And after that, it's been completely robotics. It was just reading through material online, going through all that stuff, and just papers and everything. It wasn't like course based. All my education in robotics wasn't course based. But then going through that, I went into the company IAM Robotics, where I currently do SLAM engineering, simultaneous localization and mapping. Yeah, that's me in a complete nutshell, from an automotive engineering to a person to a robotics engineer.
Got it. And when did you start searching for full-time job opportunities in the US?
Yeah, so I was supposed to graduate in May 2020, and I kind of started my job search in February. I was starting to look at jobs. Even I kept maintaining a network and other stuff while doing everything. Like I would ask people on LinkedIn, like what is needed for this industry and things like that, just to keep in touch with people.
Mhm.
And after that, started looking in February. I kind of landed a good position in a company, and then it did not work out, and COVID happened, and things became very bleak. And we had my masters also was like it felt like I had to rush a lot of things to get things done by May. And with job search and everything, I thought maybe I'll extend till the summer. So I officially graduated in summer. In August 14, I defended my thesis in August. And then again, I kept searching for jobs throughout that period. And there was a point where there was a hiring freeze during June, because most of the markets which I would go to, like the job market itself, would be either like extremely competitive robotics companies or startups. And it is like understandable that startups at this point were like trying to make sure they're even before like hiring people in that COVID times. And eventually things cleared up. It was yeah, and then I had like a 2 month period of searching for jobs, and eventually got my position in IAM Robotics in November, and I started working in December. But throughout all this period, it was like March to December was my March to November, those let's say 8 months were my job search period. Things, it was like a high and a low. Like there'd be something that went to the final round, and then it eventually went like that until hit that final check mark. But yeah.
Got it. And how did you initially approach your job search? Again, going back to, I think, February of 2020 when you first started on your job search, what was the initial approach like?
So I would usually, how it happens is I spoke a lot to the seniors, and I'd usually ask them what needs to be done, and how to approach these things. And they were saying approach your network, go to career fairs, and stuff like that. And the previous years, I would still go to the career fairs just to try to maintain a network, and just to try contact a few people. Got a few people's contacts by that, but that didn't pan out anywhere as well. But how I would just contact people on LinkedIn, do that stuff. Career fairs didn't happen properly because of COVID. In the period where like people actually like go to the final rush for jobs, it didn't happen. But then I was still applying online, asking people for referrals, and that's how it started. The initial period was basically reaching out to people and applying online while like simultaneously preparing for the interviews and thesis as well. It was a lot of cramped up time. I had to do a lot of things together, but yeah.
Got it. Looking back now, would you have changed the approach you took for searching for jobs?
Yes, I kind of would. First off, I would have. One of the biggest things is I started robotics in 2019
Mhm.
rather than when I started. So it is a big enough industry to first go into. You need to know a lot of stuff to make something in a lot of things to do something in the industry itself. So it was a big learning curve to cover for in those 1 year. And my first decision would be making that decision quite sooner as I started. But other than that, I was kind of an introverted person, so it was like I wasn't the most natural in going up to a person and introducing myself and like trying to maintain touch with the person and as a network and things. I would have worked on that more, and eventually the job that I did get, it wasn't through my network. It was through applying online, doing the research and things. The other thing would be working on my resume.
Mhm.
That was eventually found a huge spike in the amount of response I got because I used to maintain. I had my own impression of what a good resume is. I used to cramp a lot of details in there so that they would see that, and I heard a lot about the keyword optimization and things like that. Went overboard with all of that and tried to cramp as much detail in a one-page resume as possible. But then as I went through towards my August and at the end, towards the later half of my job search, I became more smart about this. I maintained like 2 3 resumes for like different because robotics in itself is a huge scope deal, and I did mechanical, so I could hold my own on mechanical side of robotics as well. So I maintained different resumes for SLAM, for navigation, different systems, and maintained a simple, concise, readable. There was a good proportion of black to white space resumes, and that helped a lot. I got a lot of traction with those resumes. Towards the end, before this June, July, August, I didn't get. I would get one interview from like about like 800, not 800. I mean 80, 90 applications, but then. It eventually turned to like 3 or 4 and like 40 with these different types of resume. It became specialized to the position. I started reading the position, writing my own summary for, and yeah, there are many resources where you can maintain these 3 things and just add and edit stuff to get in. And that really helped. I would have done that much sooner with the guidance. If someone had given me the guidance to do that, and because the market itself was more cutthroat because of COVID and everything, so you had to be much more adaptive. And yeah, if I'd known that before, I would have tried that, and I think it would have been a better success.
What did you do to get the interviews from the companies that you're applying for?
Initially in March, I told you that I got almost got one position. That was because my friend was working at a company, a very close friend. So again, I didn't have that awkwardness to reach out to a person and kind of get referred or anything. So it wasn't basically he did not refer me as such because I applied online to get the interviews, but he gave me a good idea of what the position is because he was in there. And he told me what the position is, what they expect from you, what are the skills that you need to refine, what are the skills you need to show more in an interview and things that helped. But other than that, it was purely applying. I would reach out to people asking. There would be some replies and some not so much, but it never panned out anywhere for me personally. But I do understand the importance of it once I'm in the industry. I know how much a person helping complete. I mean, if a person's how much a person's referral actually goes in a company. So yeah, reaching out is a really good thing. But the other thing is, I would always apply online. There's always a probability that all you require is one yes. So yeah, I would always apply online. Keep working on your skills in the back while things aren't working out. Yeah.
Uh, Looking back now, would you have done something else or something different to get the interviews?
Yes. initially, like I would work. This is more of getting the interview was the same for me, like trying to reach out. Eventually, that is the interview process. You either reach out, you need that initial strike, and like initial like HR interview or something, that the screening interview. Once you go there, I felt like I was good enough to go towards the end and things. But I did a lot of work on my end by writing projects, preparing projects and things and putting them in my resume. But the period of time I was working on my projects, the resume was the same, and I wasn't getting traction for 1 month and things. So I would have given more focus to my resume side. You don't need like the best end projects to actually like go through. You do need good projects. Working on projects improves your ability and other stuff, but give more like recognition. I would have eventually found out this white space black space ratio using specialized resumes if I had full focus on that part of aspect. Like applying online itself is a skill. You need to make sure you stand out, and this is one way to. I would have taken that earlier if I'd worked more on all the job search, like refining your skills and everything. If it was before February and all I had to focus was only job search and not improving my skill set as well, that would have been something especially like eventually it is like knowing everything a few months back, that would have helped me basically.
Got it. How did you prepare for your interviews?
um I had a the simple thing, like people would go to go search online for interviews, and I forgot the website, but it's been a while since I've applied. But you have interview questions. You would see what the general interview structure is like. That's a definite thing. Everyone has to go through that to see how the structure is. People might go with the conception, and then it would be completely different. So it's better to have prior information of how the interviews go, and I would do that. I would look at the position, see what is the responsibilities more, or responsibilities are more important than what your skills are required, because people kind of forget, I mean, look around it, they don't see that. But then sometimes a position might be called something, but they might be looking for something else in the responsibility section, even though they define these are the skills you need. So I would give close attention on that, and yeah, that's what I would see, and then specialize to it. I would just brush up. I usually have notes for all of these things when I was preparing for this. Like even the most fundamental stuff I went through, like courses, and I've written down everything, like linear algebra, and for controls, linear algebra is a big thing. So the complete course, I would have notes for it. Just all the technical stuff, I would have in notebooks. So I know which notebook to go and just skim through for interviews, and that's how I would do it. Before the interview times, I would go as much technical, in depth into technical stuff as much as possible to keep my brain in the zone. And that's how I would actually prepare. Like just go through the technical stuff. I always felt like behavioral I could do well. It didn't feel a huge issue with that. So it was more technical stuff, because it is a heavy field technically. You need to know a lot about everything. So yeah, most of the time it is just preparing that stuff, and yeah.
Got it. Looking back now, would you have done something else or something different to prepare for the interviews?
Not necessarily. No, I felt like I was when with all this preparation that I did feel like I prepared a lot more than like it is like sometimes people say you're comfortable if you don't put so much in your mind, and you get that anxiety of oh, have I learned enough? Have I not learned enough? But I felt like after going through that much, I would be confident that I did everything I can. It'll calm my mind that way rather than yeah. So I felt going through as much as possible made me feel more comfortable in the interviews, more confident as well. So I wouldn't change how I prepared for interviews at least.
Got it. Pivoting towards some company specific questions.
Yeah.
How did you come across your specific role of robotics software engineer at your company IAM Robotics?
So my thesis kind of constituted of making an autonomous wheeled robot, mobile robot. So I was going online and checking what are the companies that are making an autonomous mobile robot, and I would go through I'll go through the company portfolio and see, and then specialize my resume about it. And because I had the projects, it's just rearranging them, which, because that's what I mean by resume optimization. Basically, rearranging which comes first. You have a set of projects, you have a set of skills. What comes first? What needs to be discarded for a company? That's what is resume optimization. So I would do that. And IAM Robotics caught my eye because they were looking for a position that was exactly what I did in my thesis.
Mhm.
So one of the like 10 companies that I felt was a really good match for me. So I applied to those companies online, and that's how it caught my eye. Basically, I would look through. They had a few LinkedIn posts which I was going through. They had four videos of their robots, and had an idea what was inside by the way they described everything. So that was how I came to know of it, and I applied online, and the interviews went. So
Got it. How did you get the interview for this role? Was it just through applying online and you landed the interview?
it was only through applying online, actually, and that's why I meant, like, always have faith in applying online, because you will get. I got many interviews like that, basically,
Got it.
and then you need only one to go through finally. So
That's it. What was the interview process like for this role?
the interview process is, the first round was a screening where you talk to a technical person. There was no like HR involved in the complete process. I would email the HRs, but the person who I would eventually talk to were engineers. So he was just asking me questions about what my background is, what led to my decisions to this place, and what were my like, why did I choose the field, and what are the things that I know in the field. Just having a technical idea, just an overall idea of what my specialization is, and by the way, how I have conversation, if I would be a fit in the company. And that was the initial interview. And that turned I mean, after that I went to the final interview. There were only two sessions, but the final interview was 3 hours. And the first half of it was basically a code review. If you had that helped for me personally. But a code review is basically, you would have a project, you would define what your problem statement is, and you would show how your problem statement evolved into code and how you tried to solve it. They don't look at the solution, basically they see how you tried to solve the problem. Did you make some decisions? It might be good or bad, but did it make sense at the time for you to make the decision? How you would have improved things, and those kind of decisions that are very important for the field in itself. Like in field, you do a lot of decisions. You have a problem, but everything goes into code, and that is your job as well. So it wasn't more of lead coding like any other robotics company. This was actually writing some code and showing that code. And you could have written. I had a project already, a big project, so I showed that. But they did give like a week to write your own code as well. So that's how it went. And then the rest was like normal technical questions, other than your code itself, about the field, about the industry, and afterwards just a period of behavioral questions to see if you're a fit, see if there's nothing like a blacklist in your complete way of approaching an interview. And yeah, that was. And after the two interviews, I took a week for them to give the decision. But it was just two interviews, one hour one and one 4 hours one.
Got it. And that gets us to the next question I was about to ask. How long after your last interview round did you get the full-time offer?
It was a week
A week.
after my final interview. It was a week after that, and um, they asked for your references, and afterwards it took a week for everything to become final. But I had an idea of it the next day itself. I got to know. So
Got it. Any last piece of advice for any international student who might be looking at this and who is looking for a full-time opportunity in the US?
yes, I can speak to the robotics side of things. I would one of the big things I missed out while talking about like what I would have done different is, unfortunately, most of robotics interviews now use lead coding algorithms and doing all the they try to test your software as much as possible. and I, coming from mechanical domain, I had to catch up a lot. If someone is entering for the robotics industry, I would highly suggest doing lead code almost every day while working on your skills, just improving your coding in general. That'll help interviewing with 60% of the companies. And yeah, that is an advice I would give, which I did not know myself. And even when I started doing robotics at the end, I was working more on the technical stuff and not the code aspect of things. That made me miss a few opportunities as well. So yeah, that is one advice I would give. And the second is approaching people is very important. Me being an introvert, it was a little difficult for me, but it can be done. I mean, there are a lot of things out there. You have supplies of career centers and things like that. They train you basically. So I would approach them and always have faith in applying online because it does work out. Yeah.
Amazing. Karthik, thank you so much for it.